So, good morning, guten Tag, ahoyte, sziasztok. It's interesting to speak in English in front of people who speak another language. I have some Hungarians here, some Czechs and Slovaks. It's nice to see you here, and I wish you blessings. Before I start, I would like to pray shortly, if you allow me. Please bow your heads and we can pray together. Lord Jesus, our topic is something that is challenging us deeply as a church. Secularization, postmodernism, people not interested in Bible, religion, and our witnessing. As we talk about, we invite you that you may guide us, help us to grow together, and also to grow in our understanding. We pray in the precious name of Jesus Christ. Amen. So, I have received this title, Cracking the Code of Secularism. So the title indicates a complex and multidimensional phenomenon that challenges not only our church, but actually all Christian churches in Europe. The title itself promises something I can say I cannot give you. I have not found a magic formula how to crack the code of secularism, because this issue is much more complex. We cannot just say, do this or do that, and it will be over. So when I start studying this topic, I cannot promise you to give you one magic formula. But I try to help you to understand what's going on and to discover our chance for doing mission in a secular context. I would like to start with a Bible text when Jesus himself speaks about secularism today. He says, however, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? So he speaks about our time. So that means that is something unique, something special we experience today. And not only him, but also other people, like Max Weber and others, they propose that we have to do some preparations because this will be a challenging time. I would like to talk to you about 5 topics this morning. The first one is, how does the new cultural stage affect European Christianity? I will be short because the time is short. I just give you some ideas. And then I want to talk about something that might surprise you, the benefits of secularization. Usually we cry about it, but it also has some advantages. And I will tell you, you enjoy it very much more than you think. And then the third one is Adventist approaches to dealing with the challenge of secularization. And the fourth one is the missiological approach that I suggest to follow today. And the last one, how can we maintain faith and present our message in a secularized world? So I will give you some ideas, some suggestions, what I think might be relevant for us. So cracking the code of secularization, let's start with this topic and ask the question, how does the new culture stage affect the Adventist church? We are finding increasingly difficult to sell Adventism today. So why? What are the reasons and causes for this? Max Weber predicted in one presentation in Munich, 1917. He wanted to provoke, that was a social provocation. He wanted to provoke the audience, and he said, the fate of our times is characterized by rationalization and intellectualization, and above all, by the disenchantment of the world. He foresaw that some kind of developments will come in European Christianity and also in the European context. And this will challenge us very much. He was a German sociologist, and he added some other points to this too. He said, intellectualism suppresses belief in magic. The world's processes become enchanted, lose their magical significance, and henceforth simply are and happen, but no longer signify anything. So, together with Durkheim and Marx, they said there is a process that will start, and they called it secularization. And the result will be the decline of religion, the challenge of religious faith, and the disappearance of churches. They foresaw and they predicted a complicated and contradictory nature of a new paradigm shift in the European context. Unfortunately, we did not really listen to voices like them. I think sometimes we find prophets also in the society. And it is good to listen to them because they help us to do some preparations. Now, if you look at the statistics today, I can only present some conclusions, like now from Pew Research Center. They conclude that what they said is partially true. Something really happened. Western Europe, where Protestant Christianity originated, and Catholicism has been based for most of its history, has become one of the world's most secular regions. Although the vast majority of adults say they were baptized, today many do not describe themselves as Christians. Some say they gradually drifted away from religion, stopped believing in religious teachings, or were alienated by scandals of church positions on social issues. So Christianized societies and their values seem to disappear in the past on the European continent. So Pew Research Center concludes that most Christians surveyed in 15 countries slowly give up their religious or Christian identity. It doesn't mean they become not completely secular. They still believe in something, but somehow they are getting disconnected from Christian faith. So what is the fate of religion in Europe? Europeans become increasingly unchurched and religiously indifferent. Increasing number of Europeans are happy to think of their countries and their continent as post-Christian. An opposed current makes religion assertively present in the media, in politics and in everyday life. At one hand, we see dying churches. At the other hand, we see a growing interest in spirituality and some kind of religious matters. And we see that Weber's theory has been the subject of intense debate. There is no unity about the theory of secularization. There's a debate, and I will show you some phases of secularization. How does this process affect Christian churches? I want to give you just one statistic about Luther's country, Germany, the country of Reformation, and the Church of Luther. The Lutheran Church in Germany expects about 50% decrease in church membership by the year of 2060. I calculated that means about 2% each year. 2% loss each year. If I calculate the Adventist statistics in German-speaking countries, especially Germany, I can say about 1.8% loss a year. We are very close to their numbers. And if we want to create a prognosis about the development of our church, without immigration of Adventists from other areas, we might have the same challenge, the same problem. They go down from 21.5 million in 2017 to 10.5 million in 2060. How is that with our Adventist church? I just want to give you some results of our surveys. I'm doing major demographical studies. We did it in 6 countries in Europe. And I just want to present to you some results, what we see. We have declining baptism rates. Growth comes mainly through transfers from other countries. We have an aging church and shrinking proportion of young adults in our churches. You see, this is, for example, Germany in 2005, Germany in 2015, and our prognosis in 2025 looks like this. What do you observe on this picture? The age structure is just moving forward, and the young generation is not present like we wish to have them. The growth is slowing down, and we are facing a major challenge after the peak. Actually, the generation of baby boomers reached the retirement age. We face a growing gender gap problem. In some countries, we have more than 65-70% of the church members, female, and we are losing male in our churches. My question to leaders sometimes, so if our sisters are doing that well, why do we only have a department for women's ministry? I think we should start, finally, in the name of equality, a department for men's ministry. Because this creates a much more challenge for us than reaching women. Men don't like actually sitting, holding hands in the church, listening to men telling stories, singing songs that is not their word. So we have to develop actually a liturgy for men, a mission for men, some ideas how we can reach men in today's society. Challenges for local congregations, declining voluntarism. The motivation of people is going slowly down for doing something. But the opposite happens in the society. In the society, we see a growing motivation for voluntarism. In the church, it is declining. That means we are doing something not well. People go to the society to do some volunteer ministry and leave the church. We have to change the way how we lead the church, how we design ministries in the church, so they can develop more motivation for volunteer ministry. And if you have less people being ready to do volunteer ministry, the result is the exhaustion of active church members. You have less and less doing more and more. Declining church attendance, a growing number of small churches, and many dying local congregations. This is the picture of what we see in the European continent. I just want to tell you I'm not demotivated, and I am quite optimistic if you know me, but the numbers, I think it is worth to discuss the numbers openly. We have a problem in the European field, in the European continent. I think we already entered as an Adventist church a historical crisis in our countries, and we have to change something. We need to reflect about it. It is like a modern exile for churches. I like this picture from Stefan Paas. He talks about a modern exile, which means we have a time of confusion. Our old methods do not function anymore. Who are we? So we are losing our power we used to have in the past. Our methods don't reach people and don't bring success as we wish. We are experiencing an identity crisis. Exile requires looking after one's own identity and a new identity. We need to ask ourselves who we are, what is our mandate. This is like an exile for the Adventist church, and this is painful, but no one else understands us really. If you have Brazilian visitors, they judge you, you are not a real Adventist, in this context. And we face criticism, but during exile time, like we experience, I think that is natural, that we have to face some questions that are critical for us. Exile asks for a renewed spirituality. What we need first is not new methods, and contemporary worship services, but a new spirituality that is able to meet the challenges. And at last, the exile requires a new language of testimony, or witnessing, arises in exile. So we have to find our way of doing mission in this context. And I think we have to change something in order to accomplish our missionary mandate in this European context. So what can we do in this time of exile? I think it is important to face at society, the development in society, and to ask questions about it. So why is it important to understand the topic of secularization? Why shall we talk about changes in society? Is it not enough just to face biblical questions, to study the Bible? I think we need to accept the fact that we need to have two kinds of Bibles. One, the inspired one, and the other one is the society around us. Because we have to do a ministry in the society around us. European countries became, in many ways, the most secular and adverse part of Earth. And we suffer because of it. But we face a double challenge. Because other continents criticize European Adventism, that we are not faithful enough, we are not spiritual enough. So there is a double load, a double challenge for European Adventism. That's why it is important to reflect about our situation and to come to meaningful conclusions. So secularization in the European context. What does it mean to be secular? The process whereby religious thinking, practices and institutions lose social significance. I would like to underline this word social significance. And I think it's an important point. We will come back to it later. How can we measure secularization? How can I measure how far my church has been secularized, or how secular are people in my area? In social science, we use the 3 B's very often: belonging to an institution which is religious, how far someone is connected to the institution, behaving, how someone practices religious deeds like praying, reading, attending worship service, whatever, and believing what he thinks about something. So these are the three actually aspects we can analyze. A secular person does not believe in supernatural beings, entities or realms, does not engage in religious behaviors, and the secular person does not identify as a religious and is not a member of a religious community. But I think you can immediately recognize that everybody is going a different way. So there is no united picture of a secular society. Each country is different, and I would say each person is different somehow in our societies. So you need to relate to people one by one, not as an institution, but we need to get to understand people how they are. But there are some benefits of secularization, and I think we liked it. We enjoy it, because there is no dominant religion that would marginalize religious minority groups. We like it. There is no Catholic Church that persecutes Protestants to America, We are free. Everybody is free. It's a good news for us, but it is also a challenge. So if everybody is free to choose his religious views, why don't people choose ours? It is like a marketplace for all kinds of religious offers. If people don't buy ours, that means either we don't present it, they don't know it, or the way how we present it is problematic. So it's a benefit, but at the same time also a challenge for us. People would be freer to lead their lives on an individualistic basis and create their own meanings and goals. They want to do that. I want to have my freedom. This is also a benefit, but at the same time also a challenge. Cultural stigmas associated with religion around certain issues, such as women's rights, would be reduced to secularization. But there are some other aspects of secularization we love very much. Research also shows that the most secular nations of the world are generally the most well-off. They are the richest. And I think you enjoy also having a car, driving freely, having a good heating system or a conditioning system in your home, and so on and so on. So the most secularized countries are the richest countries on earth. They are generally the most peaceful countries. Somehow, the process of secularization contributes to having peace in countries. Because of religious fights, we used to have a lot of wars, in our countries. Now, it seems like secularization brings something religion cannot achieve. And people consider it. Don't be too arrogant. Don't disturb us with your views, with your religious views, they say sometimes. We enjoy life as it is. They have the lowest rates of crime and corruption, according to research. And they have the highest level of happiness. The more secular a country is, actually, research shows people are the happier. And somehow they go together. So if we want to change something, we need to be careful. What do we offer in this context? The happiest country is Finland, one of the most secular countries. You cannot conduct evangelistic meetings. You cannot preach. You cannot invite people to meetings. They are not really interested. So if we want to do our mission, we have to reflect about what do we offer in a secular context? What makes the gospel powerful? What makes a positive change? What can cause a positive change in the life of people? There's a good news about secularization. I want to bring two quotations from the same person, Peter Berger. He published in 1968 an article in New York Times. By the 21st century, religious believers are likely to be found only in small sects, huddled together to resist a worldwide secular culture. So that is what he foresaw, that people will give up religious views, and they will be just gathering in small sects. The same person said in 1999, someone was wrong with our idea about secularization, because he discovered, but you cannot force people to give up religion. It is deeply rooted in our hearts, in our nature. We have been created by God, and you cannot just run away. and give up everything. So he says the assumption that we live in a secularized world is false. The world today, with some exceptions, is as furiously religious as it ever was. And in some places, more so than ever. He wrote it in 1999. So today we speak about Europe's post-secular continent. Why? Because we can measure a growing interest on spiritual matters and religiosity. It is a good news for us if we can present something meaningfully in our society. A bad news for us, people are not interested on religious programs, on church programs, on church organizations. They are mainly interested in spiritual matters, something they can experience. The secularization theory went through different phases. I just want to present to you three. The original thesis, like Max Weber stated, is the religionless society. The process of modernization, rationalization, create a religionless society. Later, people discovered that what is going on is not that people are giving up religions. There's a transformation of religion. People are religious, and they don't give up religion, they change their religion. So if they give up one form of religion, they go for another form of religion. So if they leave your church, give up church membership in the Adventist church, the question is not, whether they are believing anymore or not. We have done several surveys and we discovered most Adventists leaving the church don't give up their faith in Jesus Christ. They just change the form, the way how they design their religious life, but they still believe. So there is a transformation of religiosity from one form to another form, from Christian maybe to Buddhism. There's also research about it, why people go, for example, to Buddhism from Christianity. And it is interesting to listen to the answers of people. Bertelsmann Stiftung in Germany, they made a survey, and it was a qualitative survey asking people what happens to them. And they said they go from Christianity to Buddhism because of the peace they receive in Buddhism. They say, it is not a religion, what I find in Buddhism. It is a lifestyle. I go there, no one tries to force me to believe something what is not meaningful. I enter, a building, and I can sense the peace. I can relax. It gives me new orientation. If I go to church, they are fighting, they are telling me stories I can't believe, I don't like it. So their experiences force them to leave Christianity and join other religions. We can speak about 3 levels of secularization. And I can show you that you enjoy one, the first one, the societal level, the meta level of society. In the past, if people became sick, got depression, usually they went to the church. They asked the pastor, asked church members to assist each other. So that was, the task of the church, to take care of everyday needs too. Today, we have, at a societal level, in a secular society, almost for everything, an institution. If you get sick, you go to the hospital. If you have depression, you go to a psychologist. If you have social problems, you go to the social department. So at the societal level, the state cares for you. And the church doesn't need to do anything. What remained in the church? Maybe preaching, sermonizing. And that is not enough. The secular state made churches unemployed, disconnected from everyday life. And we pay the price for this, because the church is not relevant in everyday life. The second level is secularization at the organizational level. It is almost a consequence of the first one. If you do not offer a relevant ministry, why shall I come to your church program? Why shall I be a member of your church? You are not relevant. And people give up belonging to a Christian church. And the third one, secularization at the personal level. You see that people try to design their faith the way they like, they enjoy. And they are free to move. And because of this, I think the secular society, or the European context today, gives us a genuine chance for doing mission. Because people are free to choose, they are free to listen. They are not afraid of changing their views. They are proud of it if they find something finally. And they go for it, and they talk about it, and they love it. So the main challenge for us is, how can we use this chance at a personal level, where people follow a more individualized religion, to present the gospel of Jesus Christ in today's society. So secularization means a change from an institutionalized model of religion to a more individualized religion. And this gives us a very special, unique opportunity. There are also different phases of secularization. Each country is different. I don't want to talk much about it, but I just mentioned France developed a political secularism. The state separates the church from everything that happens in society. America developed a very special kind of secularization. It's a mutual exclusion. No one church is allowed to go against other churches or religions. Western European countries developed a progressive secularization, secular humanism. It's a very slow change. In decades, they changed the views and the way how they deal with religious matters. And Central and Eastern European countries like Czechs and Slovaks, they experienced a forced secularization. Communists discovered that secularization helps them to establish a new state, and they try to force people to give up everything that is religious. And in Czech Republic and in East Germany, they were very much successful. But each country went through a different process, and the results are different. I encourage you to read about the secularization process of your own country. It helps you to deal with the challenges and develop a strategy. Adventist approaches to dealing with challenges of the new cultural stage. I try to observe what conferences, unions, and churches try to do and how they try to cope with the challenges. And I discovered some approaches that might be interesting for us today. The first one I would like to mention is the sustainability-oriented approach. Because of the crisis situation, some leaders decide the main priority is sustainability of the church. Declining resources and opportunities force management to take reasonable actions. For example, reducing expenses. That means at the same time less funds for mission. And also increasing reserves to ensure longer survival of the church. What kind of vision is this? Longer survival. We should not die in 10 years. Let's try to make it for 15. And we reduce expenses and also staff reduction. We reduce the number of pastors, because we cannot pay all of them. It happened also in England a couple of years ago and in other countries. But what happens to the remaining workers? They will be overloaded. In the past, you used to have 3 churches at the same time, so now you will have 6. So does it save our church? Or merging small congregations into a larger and sustainable congregation. This is a typical approach, actually, which creates major challenge for mission. Now, everybody has to make a long-distance journey to reach the church building. And you don't have friends where your church programs are, and you don't have programs where you live. So you disconnect your area of influence from church activities. So does it help you? I don't think that the sustainably oriented approach really helps our church to survive. The second one is orthodoxy, more focus on doctrinal correctness and central beliefs. Let's go back, and study more and do more to come back to the original faith. It is important to face on doctrinal questions, but you can look at conservative churches and more open-minded churches. Very often they have the same problem, so it doesn't solve the problem itself. Orthopraxy, some say we should pay less focus on doctrines and more focus on right praxis and correct conduct in the postmodern society. Let's become postmodern, develop new approaches. Or you can see the ecumenical approach. We shall compensate for our weakening influence in society and declining resources by working, cooperating ecumenically with other denominations. And let's join together, and together we appear a bit bigger in society. Does it really solve our problems? We have the neo-Pentecostalist approach, a new style of spirituality with a this worldly orientation. It is considered by many as an example of a truly modern or even secular religion. People like it, they buy it. Let's preach prosperity theology. If you really believe, you will be rich. Churches like this are growing. In my country, I studied one of them in Hungary, in Budapest. They grew from 150 members up to 40,000 within about 15 years' time. And what they preach, prosperity gospel. Believe rightly, and you will be blessed and rich. They use words as power. Name it and claim it. Neo-Pentecostalist approach promises people that faith will change your life on a positive manner. Finally, as Stefan Paz describes it, performance orientation. Worship looks like a theater, and important persons and leaders can do whatever they like. We have the control-based approach. Some church members, some people feel this challenge is too big for us. Let us choose one leader, let us give him the power, and he can do whatever he likes. And we come back to actually charismatic leadership style. Or we see isolation. Some conferences or churches try to isolate themselves, not to be influenced by others. Let us create a safe environment, a new Qumran to maintain our faith as we would like to do this. And we have the exhausted immigrants leaving the Adventist church and joining other countries. I have friends, highly educated people. One of them is a psychologist. The other one is a medical doctor, and he's a professor at a medical university. And they left the Adventist church, and they joined the Catholic Church. They said, here in the Adventist church, I don't fight spirituality, but together with the monks in the church, in the Catholic Church, there's high spirituality, there is peace. We come together, we pray together a lot, much more than you do. So they left the Adventist church. Exhausted immigrants leaving church to survive spiritually. If you look at what we are doing, I would like to ask the question, are we repeating the same mistakes like we did in the 20th century? Gordon Doss published an article in 2005, and he said Adventists were so preoccupied with the practical realities in the 20th century that they tended to overlook the theological underpinnings of mission. And I think we do something similar. Agendas, problems keep us busy, and we forget to look at the main issues, actually, as we are supposed to do this. Who said this week? First things should be first. We heard it. I think it's the same issue. How can we maintain faith and present our message in a secularized world? We need a renewed biblical mission theology. And I think it's very much important. Someone might say, why shall we focus on mission? We have a problem with it. It doesn't function. Because today, everyone is doing mission, even in your own church. Brian Stone and Stefan Paz says, clearly we live in a culture of conversion. Human life is inescapably missionary. Everybody evangelizes, also in your own church. And they get your church members. So if you don't present your values, you don't present your goals, you don't present your beliefs, no one will listen to you and hear your message. So we have to come back to the point to clarify what is our mission. Our faith is intrinsically missionary. If we give up our mission, the church is going to die. So we need to come back and ask the question, what is our mission today? Kramer says that a main problem of the church that we don't recognize we have a problem with mission. Strictly speaking, one ought to say that the church is always in a state of crisis, and that its greatest shortcoming is that it is only occasionally aware of it. The church has always needed apparent failure and suffering in order to become fully alive to its real nature and mission. And I think it's important to remember this. Biblical mission theology always leads to critical reflection and evaluation of our applied mission theology. But we are world champions in creating new ideas, new strategic plans for mission. We are running into the next project, but we very seldom evaluate what we have done. There is very seldom an evaluation, a research about it. But it's important that we changed it and we come back to the main task, what we have. Although it is not easy to turn our attention away from the practical realities of our time, says Gottfried Osterwald, finding our missionary mandate as a church in our historical and social context is crucial because it motivates us from inside. It is not coming like a pressure of the conference from outside. We have to help our church members to discover their own missionary mandate. Ellen White says, mission is the heartbeat of the church. Excuse me. If it stops, the church ceases to be. Each institution, every program, and any activity of the church has meaning and the right to exist only if it participates in mission. And every believer by baptism, not only but publicly, declares himself a follower of Jesus Christ, but also pledges himself to work with him for the salvation of men. But she also warns us, because of a new situation in the world, in Christendom in general, and in the Adventist church in particular, we must develop new forms of mission, new methods, and new strategies. So don't try to keep what you have done in the past, just doing also in the future. We have to develop new strategies, new approaches. In order to avoid what we are facing now, we struggle with existing churches, how the atmosphere is in your church, and we are struggling with fellowship and unity in our existing churches. And Schütz described that in 1953, the house of church is on fire. In our missionary outreach, we resemble a lunatic who carries the harvest into his burning barn. It is much better to stop and reflect about our missionary mandate. And I think it's very much important. Osterwald said decades ago, we have to do this because each generation of believers faces a different world. This seems to be more true of our present generation than of any other in history. Activism doesn't help us. We have to reduce the steps and activities we are doing, and we have to find the right approaches. Because as the history of both God's revelation and mission evidence, each generation has a particular message to proclaim and its work, its own task to fulfill in the world. Because the Christian churches and the whole position of Christianity in the world have changed. That's why we have to come back and we need to discover actually what is our missionary mandate. Cracking the code of secularism. How can we maintain faith and present our message in a secularized world? I want to give you some hints, some ideas in this short remaining time. The first, we need to develop a biblical and motivating mission theology. That's why if I do a seminar in local church context, I always start with studying the Bible, reading the text anew. We need to discover what the Bible tells us today, and we need to come to our own conclusions. A mission theology shall lead to a renewed vision for ministry. What is our vision? It must be connected to what we discovered as our own particular mission. We need to develop new church models, and I think it's very much important. We have certain church models, but many of them do not really support the life of local churches. We have small churches, a growing number of small churches. We need to develop models like house church or something. For small churches, they are struggling to maintain church life. We need churches with intercultural models for churches with intercultural diversity. So how do we deal with the diversity in our churches, with the cultural diversity? I think in America, we love to have large churches. The European context is different. I think it is better to have smaller churches which are more culturally united. Sometimes I see German churches, together with many Romanians, and I see the Romanian faces, they are not happy with what is going on in the church. Why don't we start a new church plant, actually, with Romanian brothers and sisters? Why don't we decide that we are ready to have 2 worship services, but we do some other steps for uniting the church, actually also bringing them together. We need to start a new model for geographically scattered churches. People travel a lot. if you have only one church building in the center, what are you going to do in the villages where church members live? Maybe we should start house churches or small groups or something in the area where people live. We need to start new church plans for specific target groups. And I'm very upset that we do not really have church planters today because we reduce our funds. And I know some young people, young pastors, who are dreaming about starting new churches. If they write an application, the answer is, no budget, we need you in existing churches. Let's make those free for planting churches who have a gift for church planting. It is not enough just to help dying churches to die slowly and comfortably. We need to release people for planting new churches. We have many dying and old congregations. We need to develop some ways how to do pastoral counseling in these dying congregations. They have the right to enjoy being an Adventist, being a Christian, and being connected to Jesus Christ. We have some church members who are only remotely connected to existing churches. Maybe we can start an online church or something so they can participate, not just watch YouTube videos. Streamed sermons are not church. We have to discover ways how we can unite those who cannot participate at worship services at the location. And we need to discover ways how to train church members. In the past, we used to have the mission station approach. In the center, we had the church building, and we invited people to come. We invited them to join. It doesn't function anymore because people don't come, not even our church members. So let's change it to the relational streams approach. Everybody has friends. Everybody has some people whom he knows. So why don't we train our church members how to do mission in their own relational streams? The most important topic is contemporary Christian communication. How you can talk about your beliefs, about your faith in the environment where you are living, where you are working. I think our churches must become training centers, not worshiping centers. And we should give up slowly inviting people into the church program. But in the church, we should train church members and send them out into their own relational streams to do a meaningful ministry among them. So how can we maintain faith and present our message in a secularized world? We have to find ways how we can teach faith creatively. We only maintain usually a cognitive learning process, which is boring for many. Preaching, talking a lot, you can forget it. So why don't we eat pizza together? When I worked in Hungary, I invited young people who were about leaving the church. I told them, let's eat pizza together. What is your favorite pizza? You know what the answer was? All of them said, pizza with bacon. I said, oh, that one I cannot prepare for you in my home, but please come, let's talk about it. And we came together every week. It was a creative learning process, eating together, socializing together, doing our own experiences together. After a couple of weeks, one of them said, Laszlo, you need to know, the only place where we feel connected to God is the conversation with you here in your house. The only place. And they still attended the worship service. We have to break up the old programs and initiate some creative learning processes. And we also need to have a holistic approach, emphasize service to the community, especially group outreach. Each year I go with students to Africa. And last year when I went to Africa, we advertised it in the gymnasium in Burg here. You see this town. And 7 pupils came from the gymnasium with us and 2 teachers to Tanzania. They know I'm a pastor. They know we are also planting churches. But we also build schools. And during the week, they were teaching in our schools in Tanzania. And Sabbath was a free day. And they saw me by breakfast. I take my jacket, and I eat my breakfast, and I want to go somewhere. And one of them asked me, Laszlo, where are you going? I said, I go to one of the churches here. And what is the program there? I said, I'm going to preach. They were silent, and one asked me, Laszlo, do you have a place in your car? I said, yes. How many of you would like to join? All of them raised their hands. 7 pupils, highly secularized young people from Burg. They never attended any church meeting. They came with me to the church. And I knew they are good singers. And I asked them, why don't you sing something to the church here? And they said, we don't know any religious songs. Can we sing the song from Lion King, to the church? I said, yes, you can. How do you think about it? They sang the song, The Lion King, Hakuna Matata. And they developed a friendship to the church. Today, if I meet them anywhere in Burg on the street, they come to me and they hug me, these young people. They published for me a picture book. Thank you, Laszlo, for being with us in Tanzania and doing this ministry with us. And they are advertising in the school the whole project. This year, I got applications from the gymnasium again. You know what happened? Last year, we had 7. This year, 15 are coming. 15 pupils from Burg, from the gymnasium, and 2 teachers. And they are eager joining. So create a holistic approach. Do ministry together for community. They are your partners. I can tell you, these kids raised until now over 12,000 euro for the project, for the Adventist project. They are advertising in Burg, visiting shops, collecting money, collecting funds and gifts for the project of a university in Tanzania. And they are enthusiastic about it. Create occasions where you can have a holistic ministry. You can sing together, eat together, socialize together, care for each other. It makes fun. And then, at the end of the day, they will ask you questions. It is important. Keep what you have. We are losing too many church members because we don't care. I encourage you something. We are many here. You find your friends. Why don't you change your preferences today? Go to those in this fellowship who are always sitting alone. Some might not have friends here. They might not know anyone. Don't go to your friends for a couple hours. Just try to talk to new people. Say some nice words to them. And maybe even pastors need good words, isn't it? So change it. Keep what you have. Take care of each other. Fulfill the need for fellowship and community, also within the church. Be friends to each other. Be aware of the needs for values, the need for identity, and the need for a Savior. Don't be afraid presenting Jesus Christ. If I talk to this young man, I pray with them. Before we depart, I tell them, let's pray together. By eating, I say, I always bless my food. Do you allow me to do this? And they say, yes. I don't hide Jesus Christ. And after a while, they start asking questions. What are you doing? What is the meaning of what you are doing? I would like to finish my presentation with the verse of Apostle Paul. Watch your life. This is postmodernism. People are watching you. Watch your life and your doctrine. This is modernism closely. Persevere in them, for if you do so, you will save both yourself and your hearers. Amen.